Hello, I'm Damon Simmons, Chief of Police for the City of Liberty Lake.
Welcome to the Liberty Lake Deep Dive, the city podcast of Liberty Lake, Washington. I'm David Gaynor, parked right here in the vast broadcast studios of City Hall, where for this show we are going to take a look at the city's contingent of the license plate reading resources known as flock cameras. What do they do? What do they not do? How are they used? And how are they not used? Police Chief Damon Simmons will be providing the answers to all those questions, and we'll be taking the microphones over to the police station for a highly informative Q&A session with him right after we introduce today's Know Your Liberty Lake trivia question, which is this. As of January 2026, does the Liberty Lake Police Department have more police officers or more flock cameras? We'll have the answer for you, including the numbers on each at the end of this show. But actually, you're going to hear one of those numbers from Chief Simmons in the opening minutes of today's conversation, which begins right now. Chief Simmons, first thing, give us a brief description on this. What is a flock camera? What do they do?
You know, for such a great piece of technology, the data is pretty limited. But the data that it gives you, the information it gives you, is very, very useful. The flock camera basically takes a picture of the front or the rear of a vehicle and also the license plate. Still picture only, no video. And so that image is focused solely on the license plate and the rear or the front of a vehicle. You can't even tell who's in the vehicle sometimes or if the vehicle's even occupied. It looks like a ghost is driving the vehicle sometimes because you can't see occupants. It doesn't focus on occupants.
Does it zoom in on just the license plate, or does it show like the whole car?
It zooms in on the license plate and it shows the rear, a majority of the rear of a vehicle. Or the front, depending on how you have that camera at a place where vehicles are passing or they're coming. And so it's either the front or the rear of a vehicle that the camera focuses on as far as creating an image. And so the camera then can take that license plate information and it feeds it into a system which is the same system that we use, NCIC, the National Crime Information Center, to get information on that vehicle and the vehicle only. Not the registered owner's information, just the make, model, and the color of that vehicle. But it also does some cool things. If the vehicle doesn't have a license plate, it can tell us what type of vehicle that you're looking at based on either the headlights shape, the tail light shape, the shape of the vehicle. Like, there's some really cool technology that's been employed there.
The photos are wide enough that it'll show a larger view of the car then.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know what type of vehicle is passing. Like I said, you get a good view of the rear, the front of the vehicle, and also a zoomed in image of the license plate.
And it's primarily used why? Once you get the license plate, why are you looking for a license plate?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're not actually looking for license plates. We're looking for vehicles of interest.
Yeah.
And so, I think we had over 1 million unique plate reads last year.
Just in the city? Just
in the city. And that's unique. And what that means is how many times a vehicle was seen one time. Not repeat vehicles like citizens that are going back and forth, but unique, like a plate was seen one time. So we had over 1 million unique plate reads last year in 2025. That's a lot of traffic coming through our city. Of course, when you have that much traffic coming through the city, especially, with Liberty Lake being a unique city because we're at the port of entry on I-90, coming into the state, there's a lot of traffic that comes and goes, not only on I-90, but through the city. And so when you have that much traffic, of course, you're going to have vehicles and people of interest entering the city. And so statistically, over the last 2 years, we've had 24 people arrested regarding stops made on our flock cameras. Some of those included stolen vehicles, stolen plates, suspects in other crimes, a lot of felonies, some misdemeanors, but a lot of felonies, like felony domestic violence suspects, homicide suspects. There was 1 year, and I believe it was 23 that we detected 5 homicide suspects that came through the city, which, not only is important for us to know to protect the citizens of Liberty Lake, but also from an officer safety standpoint. I remember one of those homicide suspects was located by, I believe it was Post Falls or Coeur d'Alene, one of the Idaho agencies, and a shootout ensued and a pursuit subsequently after that. They notified the Spokane County units because the suspect was heading east. They lost sight of the suspect at one point, and one of our officers, being super intelligent, said, I might want to check the flock cameras to see if that vehicle had entered the city. Sure enough, that homicide suspect and the vehicle had entered the city. We attempted to locate it, couldn't locate it, and that suspect was later apprehended in Airway Heights the next day. But from a public safety standpoint, that's pretty important. We have bad people like that coming through, and having a tool that can let us know that, hey, that bad person is either in town or they come through town. We've recovered 6 stolen license plates in the past 2 years off of flock hits. We've identified, multiple suspects and multiple suspect vehicles. We've located 3 missing persons where we had to take some sort of action. We've located more than that based on the hits, but those are people we've located them and they know I'm fine. My relative reported me as missing, but I'm okay. But the people that there was some general concern, and we were concerned about their welfare. There were 3 of those. We had 5 dangerous situations averted. I can't comment on those, but I will say that they were dangerous situations that were averted over the last 2 years.
Briefly describe, what do these things look like? People have been seeing these objects for a couple of years now in Liberty Lake.
So currently we have 19 flock cameras. They are positioned in strategic points throughout the city. They are the cameras that are on the skinny, tall poles, specifically at our entry points, main entry points throughout the city.
They're stationary. They don't move around, right?
Correct.
About when did Liberty Lake start getting flock cameras around city streets?
We erected our first 17 flock cameras in 2023. We have 19 total now. We added 2 since then.
What was the thought process of deciding we want to get flock cameras?
Well, at the time and also currently, my top 3 priorities are staffing, training, and technology. Technology can be used to move a department beyond resiliency. And what I mean by that is it makes a department anti-fragile. You try to see, what tools we can employ not only to assist us in bouncing back from incidents, but what can make us stronger. What can make us better? And technology does that. And so doing some research into technologies that, could strengthen our public safety efforts, license plate recognition cameras were one of those. And it was a lengthy search and a lot of research done into, what company would best serve us as a department, our city, and our citizens. And Flock came out number 1 for us.
So there's more than one company doing these sorts of license plate readers?
Yes, there's more than one company that does those. There's an interesting story on the Flock company and how it came about. They actually didn't start with public safety in mind. It started with HOAs and single neighborhoods in mind, and it eventually evolved into public safety.
What were they doing with HOAs?
I think it all started, if I can recall, with the founder being the victim of a crime and was trying to figure out how to protect his neighborhood, and turning a certain piece of technology, whether it was a cell phone or something, into a camera that could read license plates, and it evolved from there. And there's different types of LPRs that you can employ. There's LPRs, or license plate recognition cameras, that you can place on vehicles. The city of Liberty Lake, the police department, actually had a car several years ago that had that technology attached to it. So this wasn't the first time.
The car had the camera to look at other cars.
Yeah, so this wasn't the first time that the Liberty Lake Police Department had employed, LPR technology to assist with its public safety efforts. It had been done before under Chief Asmus. But we were looking to see, from a financial standpoint, what's the best route for us. And also from a proactive and a reactive investigatory standpoint, how could that technology best serve us? And so speaking with several vendors, doing a lot of research, we found that the fixed LPRs were the best thing for us, and also the Flock cameras were the best for us for several reasons, to include being able to couple those with Flock cameras that we heard our sister agencies were also exploring and we're probably going to employ.
When you have the Flock system activated, is there somebody monitoring some computer screen all the time? So if somebody just happens to drive through, like, oh, here's a license plate that pinged up, or is it somebody's going through like an hour later, like, oh, this car came through? Do you get an alert immediately when something is coming through? And if so, how does that work?
Yeah, so the Flock cameras are monitored basically 2 different ways. It's web-based, and so each officer at the beginning of their shift logs on to the Flock camera website. You leave that website up on your in-car computer and or your desk computer throughout your shift. If there is a vehicle of interest or a vehicle that gives us a hit, gives us an alert that this is a vehicle of interest that's in the city, within the city limits, that officer is alerted via email, via text message, and on the website. You'll get an alert. It's pretty loud when it starts to ding. And so again, 3 different ways that officers are alerted that there's a vehicle of interest that's within the city: email, text message, and off of the website. In addition to those alerts, our flock cameras are monitored by the Real-Time Crime Center, run by the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. The Real-Time Crime Center will also receive an alert. They will notify the Spokane Regional Emergency Communication Center, SREC, and SREC will let our units know that there's a flock hit, and they'll let us know which camera that the vehicle is hitting on, direction of travel, those types of things, for our officers to go out and attempt to locate the vehicle.
And there are other cities who are using the same flock system. If something is alerted in some city in Idaho or to the west of Liberty Lake, elsewhere in Spokane County, kind of track where somebody is going?
Yeah, we can coordinate with each other. Typically, in Spokane County, the Sheriff's Office has flock cameras. We have flock cameras. There's multiple other agencies, smaller agencies that have flock cameras. And so officers will typically hear, that information relayed. Where flock cameras come in handy as far as tracking vehicles is when we have vehicles that evade us. We have vehicles of interest, and we're trying to track those vehicles. We have, suspect vehicle identified, and if they're hitting off of cameras, that's really great for us to get a direction of travel. If we have like a child abduction or a kidnapping, and we know a vehicle is heading in a specific direction, we can jump on the flock cameras to see, yep, that camera just hit off of this flock camera, and they're heading eastbound, or they're heading westbound or south. And we can continue to check and also enter that information ourselves. You can enter information manually in the flock camera as investigators, as officers and detectives, so that if that specific vehicle is seen on the flock camera, your agency gets an alert, or other agencies, either within your agency or externally, or both, it'll send an alert saying, hey, that is a vehicle of interest or a suspect vehicle in a specific crime.
With all these statistics you mentioned a moment ago, sounds like this thing is a good use of financial resources, correct?
It's a fantastic use of our resources in the city, both financially, it's paid for itself, but from a public safety standpoint, it is a tremendous tool for our agency, both reactively and proactively. Our citizens are fairly familiar with the system now. And sometimes we'll have victims call in and say, well, can you look on your flock cameras and see if you can find the vehicle that ripped me off? Especially if they have like ring camera video of a suspect vehicle or some other surveillance or eyewitness, like firsthand. Well, I know it was this type of car, and you can get a partial plate and those types of things. And they, hey, can you check your cameras to see if you can maybe identify them? And so I think in a way, since our citizens know that resource is there, I think it's expected from our citizens that we'll use that resource when they're victimized to attempt to identify suspects.
Are you able to do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a great tool. Our clearance rates have increased. They've gone up as far as, us identifying suspects and submitting cases for prosecution.
So going back to a recent podcast we did, topic-wise, if somebody witnesses some porch pirating, they maybe have seen some of the license plate, they can call you folks up, and you're able to use these cameras to see if you can still track them.
Oh, yeah. If we have enough vehicle information, and sometimes if we don't have any vehicle information, especially for crimes that occur in the middle of the night. I mean, we've used that in conjunction with other information that we received, through search warrants, through cell phone companies and things like that, to identify people who have been in the area at the time of specific crimes. And we've been able to, through some other investigative efforts, identify those people as suspects. And so, again, sometimes we may not even have vehicle information. We'll just go in and we'll say, hey, from this time to this time, what vehicles were in this area, or what vehicles were in the city. Again, couple that with cell phone tower information and some other information, and identify suspects. So sometimes it is a use of technology collectively to identify suspects and, hold those people accountable for victimizing people in our community. Sometimes it's just technology like Flock alone that helps us identify suspects and puts them, right in the area, sometimes right on scene where crimes occur. So
now on the other side of this, you have those citizens out there in any city who are concerned about, being spied on or something like that. What are some of the common misperceptions about a flock camera? What are some of the things that this camera doesn't do that some people may think it does?
Genuine concerns. And I'll start with access. The only people who have access to our cameras are commissioned officers of the Liberty Lake Police Department, our crime analyst, the crime analyst of the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, and or any other officers or departments that we allow to have access. We do share access with several other agencies who have Flock cameras. So first of all, they have to have Flock cameras. They have to be a paying customer of Flock to have access to our cameras. Those are state and local agencies only. We have historically had some federal agencies who have had access to our cameras, but based on recent concerns, relevant concerns of citizens, we've felt it was in our best interest to alleviate that access by some of those federal agencies. Now, that can be good and bad because our federal agencies, law enforcement agencies, they investigate crimes just like we do. Sometimes those crimes involve national security and some other things that are super important. So, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but we felt that it was in our best interest to alleviate that access with our federal agencies at this point. Our state and local agencies are not just limited to Washington State. We do have state and local agencies, police, investigatory agencies, prosecutors, things like that throughout the United States, who also have Flock cameras that have access to our cameras.
They may be looking for somebody from their own state, right?
They may be looking for someone from their own state or from our state that's committing crimes in their state. And we know crime travels. And so I'll give you an example of that. One of the common things that really good burglars do, and people who commit property crimes like thefts.
You're not giving away secrets for them, are you?
No, this is not a secret. This is not a secret. So one of the things that they like to do is, of course, they pawn items, right? But if you commit a burglary here in Spokane, you probably don't want to pawn identifiable items, especially from a burglary that may get, some kind of media coverage. And the media is saying, what items are stolen. You don't want to pawn those things in your area. So we've had burglaries that have occurred here in Liberty Lake where we've recovered items that have been pawned down in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. And so what they'll do is they'll commit the burglaries here. They'll drive a couple of states over to pawn those items and come back and commit crimes in between too. And so it's beneficial for us to give outside local agencies access to our cameras. Those agencies cannot access our cameras without giving a legitimate criminal justice purpose for accessing our cameras. They can't just look at our cameras to see what cars are hitting on our cameras at any given point. It has to be specific, and they have to be searching for a specific vehicle. Not only that, they have to enter a detailed reason why they're accessing our cameras and what they're looking for, including their case number and some other information. And also, it identifies that specific investigator, not just the department, that person who's looking. And so that information is auditable. And so I audit that information. I go in, I conduct an audit typically once a month, but recently I've been going in twice a month and looking at who's accessing our cameras and why. We can revoke that access if we think that's being abused. If an agency or investigators are, we don't think it's a legitimate criminal justice reason or a public safety purpose for them looking at our cameras, for vehicles, we can revoke that access. And our investigators do the same thing. So typically when you share access, you share access. So now our investigators have access to their cameras too. And our investigators, again, crime travels, and they access not only our cameras looking for suspects, but other cameras throughout our state and throughout the nation too, to try to, look at patterns and see if we can solve crimes and things like that by identifying suspects and where they're going and what they're doing. The information that is captured by Flock, again, is minimal. License plate, make, model, color. That's all you're getting on a vehicle. No personally identifiable information is obtained by that system.
You're not seeing faces through a windshield.
You're not seeing faces through a windshield. You're not getting this vehicle is registered to John Doe at 123 East Maxwell Street. You don't get any of that information. That's information that we'll use another database if we get a license plate number to attempt to try to identify registered owner information, etc. Someone can go stand in front of a Flock camera all day long with your face directly in front of it. It will never snap a picture of your face because it doesn't recognize that pattern.
It's geared for this rectangular shape.
It's geared for the shape of a vehicle and the license plate. So you can stand in front of it. It's never going to take a picture of your face unless a vehicle passes by and you're standing by it or something, So it doesn't get any personally identifiable information. It doesn't record any of that. It doesn't give law enforcement any access to that. Again, the only people who have access to our cameras are law enforcement agencies or prosecutor offices who have investigators that are law enforcement. And again, no personally identifiable information is recorded or collected.
In the last couple of years that Liberty Lake has had these, can you think of, or are you able to share any memorable instances where some kind of a crime was stopped or solved because of having these pieces of equipment?
Oh, yeah. So just outside of the city, above the lake here, not too long ago, we had a young lady who was attacked. An attempted sexual assault occurred. She fought off her attacker and was able to safely get away from that person, from him, and contact law enforcement. Not only did we identify the suspect of that attack using our flock cameras, we also found that that predator had cased out that area for at least a week.
Because of your archive of the footage.
Because of our archive of the vehicle, how many times that vehicle had been in that area. So he had been there looking for a victim for over a week. And so we were able to identify that person and subsequently arrest that gentleman for that crime.
How long does the data stay archived?
It's 30 days, and at the end of 30 days, it's gone. You can't get it back.
In this case, it was useful to have a week's worth of
It is useful to have
material on this guy.
Yeah, it is. And the 30 days is great because sometimes from a reactive standpoint, an officer will take a report. If it's a felony, it's followed up on by detectives. And sometimes you have detectives on vacation, sometimes it's the weekend. And so if you had a shorter retention period, that data's gone. It's gone. You can't get it back.
You've got 19 flock cameras in Liberty Lake. Are there plans for any more? Any other places we need to have some of these things set up?
It'd be great if, there's local businesses throughout the county that utilize flock cameras. For instance, Lowe's.
On their own?
Yeah, Lowe's has flock cameras.
Outside of city limits.
That's outside of city limits. And so, we have access to those. We've connected a lot of our crimes with suspects that are also victimizing, companies like Lowe's and some of our bigger chains throughout the county and the nation. We've had discussion with several HOAs about the HOA getting flock cameras to add to our net of cameras.
The 19 you talked about, they're on the street.
Yeah, those are all on the street in public areas. But, if some of our HOAs would explore it, that would be tremendous for us, explore getting those cameras, because if we start talking about porch pirates and some of the other crimes that are property crimes and sometimes crimes against persons that are occurring within our HOAs, in their neighborhoods, it'd be great to add those to our system because they are great. There are some great success stories on the Flock website about HOAs that utilize, cameras within their properties to help alleviate crimes and unfortunately if crimes occur, to help solve crimes that occur there.
Chief Damon Simmons, thank you for your time and sharing all this great technological information that a lot of people have been wondering about, but now they know a lot more than they had before.
Awesome. Thank you.
And now the answer to today's Know Your Liberty Lake trivia question. Does Liberty Lake have more police officers or more flock cameras? The answer is more police officers. In the interview that just concluded, you heard that the LLPD has purchased and installed 19 flock cameras. And as of January 2026, there are 27 active police officers who are employed in the city's public safety team. Let's cue that closing music. Our thanks to Liberty Lake Police Chief Damon Simmons for providing all these details, insights, and clarifications about the city's license plate reading resources known as flock cameras. And our thanks to you for listening. We hope you'll do so again on another installment of the Liberty Lake Deep Dive.